But the thing to be hyped about now, that I want to talk to you about, because it's the particular season and we've been hyping it for weeks. Although we did bury the lead and put it all the way here after an hour of conversation. Sorry, everybody. But tell me a bit about what's happening this Ectober.
Ooh, Ectober, man. So many people might remember, some people might not have any idea, but back in 2020, there was a pandemic and a lot of us were stuck at home in
Yeah.
quarantine, couldn't really leave the house, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, at least safely anyway. We were all heavily advised to stay at home and stay safe. Um, and so for me, y- y- I I was finishing my degree at school, and I have ADHD, like officially diagnosed, and that means a lot of things for me. But one of the things that it means, one of the ways that it affects me, is that it's hard for me to I'm not built to take online classes. It really
Okay.
benefited me to be able to leave home, have no distractions, be in a classroom, and
Sure.
just focus on what I'm doing.
As someone who teaches a lot of online classes, I can appreciate that.
And so I was in school, and we went on spring break. And I remember one of the last things the teacher said in my last class that I had before spring break was, "There's this thing going around. I guess I don't. It's probably going to be done in a couple weeks. Like it'll peter out or whatever. But they're taking it seriously. If you get sick while we're on spring break, call me, email one of your teachers, let us know. They want to be serious about tracking it and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, be safe, have a good spring break. We'll see you in a week,
Yeah.
whatever, right?" Well, that week long spring break turned into 3 months of not anything happening. And then after those 3 months, they
Right.
were like, "Hey, we should probably finish this semester. So we are for sure transferring everything to online classes." And the last semester, last half of the semester or whatever, that was tough for me. Um, but coming off of that semester, getting that done, I wanted to do something, being stuck at home, that I could just, it was like self care for me, right? That was like a big thing.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
hey, everybody's stressed, everybody's anxious, everybody is like bored, everybody's dealing with their own things. Like sometimes the best thing you can do is figure out what is going to make you feel like you can deal with life and yourself and the world around you in the
Mm-hmm.
here and now. And so for me, I just brought it back to like, what do I love? What's going to make me happy right now? And it was drawing and Ghostbusters. And Halloween has always been my favorite holiday. And in 2014, I did Inktober for the first time, which is a thing that an artist named Jake Parker created, which is basically just every month in October. I'm going to mix this up real quick because now we have Ectober, Inktober, and October. But the point was that it was just his idea for a way for artists to like grow and challenge themselves. So every day in October, you would do a drawing with ink, and it's just to hone
Right.
your skills. He put out a list of like 31 prompts. He still does it. He just started doing the one for this month. And it would just be like an open invite for artists to play along, post it on social media, that kind of thing, and kind of like step back and be like, "Oh, I like the one you did. Yours looked really cool," and kind of cheer each other on.
Yeah.
And so I did that back in 2014. But because I'm me and I can't ever let anything just be easy, I I took the prompts for Inktober and mixed them with the prompts for another thing called Drawloween, which is all Halloween themed prompts. And I put them together, and I cobbled together a Ghostbusters story using them, and drew like day by day by day, 31 days of like, I think it was my own riff on like, what if Sam Hain attacked, but it was in a world where like Ghostbusters had already, like there was Ghostbusters teams in every city. So that gave me a chance to like play
Right.
around with just drawing different made up characters, different scenarios, stuff like that. Um, and then I did that again over the next couple of years, but then I kind of stepped back from it just because I got busy with other things. And then in 2020, I was like, I want to do that again, but I want this to just be completely me, entirely just self-generated, doing my own thing. So I called it Ectober. Um, and so you know this, I have a ton of Ghostbuster story ideas that I have
You
like
do.
stockpiled. Just like in case of emergency, break glass. Like if no joke, if like somebody was like, John, tell me a Ghostbuster story, I could rattle off like 10 different ones and they'd all be different and completely thought out.
That's what I'm going to do on weeks when I get tired of podcasting. I'm just going to call you and be like, tell everyone a Ghostbuster story. I'm going to just record it.
Make it happen. John's story corner or whatever. But yeah, I didn't want to use one of those though, because I like keeping those in my back pocket for one of two reasons. A, because if by the grace of Gozer, I ever get a chance to pitch anything to anybody important, I want to save that stuff for that, because I genuinely believe like some of it's pretty solid. And
yeah,
even if like, I want to save it for that. Right. And B, even if it never comes to that, I still believe so strongly in like some of the themes and like the core parts of those stories that I would gladly like take it and turn it into my own thing that is like without Ghostbusters. But I wanted to still do something. I wanted to have some sort of like connective, cohesive, coherent story that linked everything together. And so I brought it back to like, what is something that like it would work for this? I would never feel like, oh, I could have used that for this other thing if the chance came along. And so I was like, oh, Ghostbusters versus movie monsters. Because like there is no world where like Sony is just like, hey, we bought the rights to like 31 different movie monsters and we're going to make a Ghostbusters thing with all of them. Right.
Right.
And also I figured I'd use the real Ghostbusters version, because odds are like, as they are making, you know, new cartoons and new animated movies and stuff, we're probably not going to see the real Ghostbusters again. If we do, it'll be because they end up doing like a multiverse thing or some sort of comic book thing.
Or like a weird cameo thing, like when they did the Extreme Ghostbusters episode where they brought him back.
Or it'll be something like, oh, Easter egg in the lab in one of the new movies. There's a proton pack prototype that looks like the cartoon version, like they did in the video game, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I figured it would be pretty harmless to do the real Ghostbusters fighting movie monsters, and also kind of fun because the real Ghostbusters, even though it had some scary stuff in it, it was never like real life movie monster scary. So to have like the cartoon version of Ghostbusters fighting like the girl from The Ring or something, it's just like to me, that's the fun of Ghostbusters. It's taking these characters that are like sometimes too cocky for their own good, sometimes don't even know what they're getting into, and then putting them in these like legitimate horror movie, disaster movie situations, and then watching them somehow come out on top. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's like the formula for Ghostbusters. And so taking the cartoon version and putting them versus like these real life, often R-rated horror movie monsters, that's the fun part. And that was the crux of the thing. And so, but of course, again, being me, I was like, but I need it to be bigger than that. I need it to have a story. And so my brother and I had, we love like going down YouTube rabbit holes and learning about creepy stuff. And a thing that had been really big at the time, at least was coming into being really big, was this idea of analog horror. The idea of like forgotten news stories and broadcasting stuff gone awry. You know, there was stuff like the Max Headroom broadcast intrusion from like back in the 80s.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, but like spookier. Like what if something otherworldly was causing it? Or what if you saw something you were never meant to see? And that kind of stuff. And so we had this, I started talking with him about it, and we had this idea of a cult that used TVs and an old abandoned broadcasting station to allow movie monsters to come into our universe and like run amok for the sake of like some sinister plan that they had. And so that was enough of a story for us to be like, cool, we got it. And then that also meant he was involved, and he's a musician. And so he was like, dude, I want to do this. I want to come up with my own version of the Ghostbusters theme song. And we just like, it was me and him just like firing on all cylinders, being stuck inside and having the time and space to like just let
Right.
our creativity run wild. And it ended up coming out as Ectober. And it was just, you know, daily social media post where like the first thing we did was our version of like an opening sequence, like with real Ghostbusters, you have the ghosts marching down the street and all that kind of stuff. Well, for us, it was like a bunch of clips of just showing like the cult has possessed all of the TVs in New York City. New York is under siege. Who you gonna call? And then like showing all the different artwork I'd done for the characters and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and the theme song playing and all that kind of thing. And then after that, it was just like, here's Peter fighting the girl from the ring. Here's Egon fighting one of the ghosts from Crimson Peak. Here's Ray fighting the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth. Here's, you know, Winston fighting Pennywise from It. Is just all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then getting to the end and having this idea that like one of the last things the cult was going to do was open a portal to the Halloween door in the tree from The Nightmare Before Christmas and just try to let everything from Halloween Town in that movie into our world. And so the last thing the Ghostbusters do is jump into a TV and come out in that world to stop that before it happens. And so it ends with like you hear through audio, they jump in, and then there's a news broadcaster who's just like, hey, it's been this many days since the Ghostbusters went missing. The members of the cult were apprehended, but nobody knows where our heroes went. And so that's kind of the note that it ended on.